Welcome to Jennifer with Coffee, a mindset podcast for people who are looking for real change. I'm Jennifer Lauer, writer, yogi, and fitness fanatic. Lately, I've been having lots of coffee meetups, long, honest conversations that delve into mindset, identity, choices, and habits that shape our lives. I kept thinking how I wanted to share these conversations, so here we are. Each episode moves in 3 beats: an inspirational story, an interview with thinkers, builders, athletes, and artists, people who want to share their own transformations. And we'll end with a brief meditation to practice calming the nervous system. Today's episode is going to be a solo episode. Every now and then, I'll throw in a solo episode if I have a specific theme or interest that I want to delve into a little bit. Do you ever see someone doing something really cool and think, I wish I could do that, and then you actually do it? I happened to see a YouTube video of Brie Larson training for Miss Marvel, and she was doing one-handed pull-ups. I thought that was so badass that a girl was doing one-handed pull-ups. I was thinking, I don't even know if I could do a regular pull-up. All of a sudden, a new goal was born inside me. I had been rehabbing a shoulder tear that I got from overstretching a tendon in my shoulder. I was meeting with my PT and I went to him and said, do you think you could get me to the point where I could do a pull-up? And he said yes. I kind of didn't believe him because at the gym, they have that pull-up machine where you stand on a little plate or kneel on a plate and then you try to do a pull-up. I had tried to do that many, many times in the past and I could never progress past the 70 pounds. I could never. When I tried to do one, I literally could just dangle. The idea that I would ever be able to pull my full body weight up and do a pull-up was quite a far goal from where I was. I kind of felt like if I can do this, it will be so shocking that I will not fear any challenge. And I can't tell you the amount of effort that went into me trying to do a pull-up. So I trained for months and months. I was training 2 to 3 times a week, and then we eventually got a pull-up bar for the doorway in our house so I could try to work on it at home. In the first couple of months, I literally couldn't even pull myself up a centimeter, never mind pull my whole body up. So I just want to be clear, if anyone else has the same goal, I went from 0 ability at all to, after months, being able to move myself a centimeter. I honestly just felt like it's probably not going to happen, but I'm going to keep going anyway. And I don't really know why, but I felt like slow and steady. I'm going to keep trying and then maybe something will click, and if not, I'm not any worse off than I was, I think it was about the 4-month point when I was able to do the precursors to a pull-up. 10 of these, then you can try 10 of these sort of things. The day I got my first pull-up, this was 2 years ago now, I could not believe it. It was one of the most important moments of my life. And I say that with no hyperbole. I went from not being able to do something even a little bit to achieving something that was not for anyone else. No one really cares, right? Who cares? You could do a pull-up. This changed me because I realized that I was capable of things I hadn't even envisioned for myself. I hope that when you go out in the world and you see someone or something that really inspires you, you can take that little kernel and make it into something real for yourself. I think the lesson here was you get to decide what you can achieve in this life. Hello and welcome to part 2 of my Hyrox journey. Okay, so my Hyrox race was in Phoenix, Arizona. We drove out to Phoenix and arrived at the hotel, and I wasn't feeling great at that time. Just a little off, nothing in particular. I was all prepared with my gels, Gatorade, bananas, peanut butter. I had a nutrition plan. I was going to have pancakes. Oh, I should start with a few days before the race, I received my race time. I think the first one they sent me was 4 p.m. and then it changed to 5 and then 5:30. So it kept getting pushed later in the day. If you've ever done a race before, it's always best to get it done early in the morning. That's when I work out. That's when I feel fresh and ready to do something physical. So the idea of having a race at 5:30 p.m. was a little stressful. I did have one training session in the afternoon to try and prepare my body for working out at that time. I won't deny that I wasn't feeling a little bit nervous about having that later race time. We got there the day before the race. When I woke up the next morning, I had a migraine headache. I am a lifelong migraine sufferer. It hadn't even entered my mind that this could be something that would happen. It was sad. It was disappointing. I took some medication and I was bummed because I had been training for months. I knew that even if I somehow rebounded from the headache and I wasn't in horrible 10 to 12 on a scale of 10 pain, that I was going to be impacted. Because when I get a migraine, it's like I'm sensitive to light, sound, everything in the world kind of feels like its volume is up. I'm nauseous and I feel a lot of head pain. We went out to lunch as part of our plan, carb loaded. I had pancakes. The funny thing is I had planned to do this and they had on the menu a flight of pancakes and you could choose these different kinds of pancakes. And I didn't want to get anything too strange or like anything that would be weird on my stomach. So I was thinking, oh, a flight of pancakes. I'll get, some strawberry pancakes and blueberry pancakes and some plain pancakes or banana pancakes or something like that. When they came, they were kind of like dessert. Instead of plain pancakes with a little bit of fruit, which was, I think, what I was hoping for, it was pancakes with butter and whipped cream and sauces, like nut sauces and syrups and all kinds of things that I just didn't expect. Had like pieces of caramel baked into them, and that was not on the menu. Okay, so it's an hour before the race, or maybe it's 2 hours before the race. I think they told us to arrive 2 hours before because the lines could be long to sign in, etc., etc. So we got there 2 hours early, which turned out to be a little bit too early. Alas, I wasn't worried about being late, so there was that. So we arrived to the stadium. My headache is probably a 6 on a scale of 10 at this point. The medicine has worn off. I'm starting to feel it again. But I'm also full of adrenaline, excited for this race. We come into the State Farm Stadium. It's huge. And then like the second we're inside the stadium, I just feel all of the things from my head. It is super loud, very loud music, people. The lights are really bright. I will say there are fit people everywhere. We scale down all of these steps and get down to the level where the race is. And I just stop on the bridge and look at everything. And I'd watched tons of videos on Instagram. I'd watched the prep videos on YouTube. And I thought I was so prepared. I'm such a researcher. They give you a map of like where everything is going to be, how many laps you have to do for running, etc. And just to see it in person, everything on the little map not drawn to scale. Everything was just enormous. So we cross over into the area where the race is taking place. Other heats are happening. People are doing all of the stations and running. It felt like a cross between a rock show and the Olympics. One of the other things I did notice about the stations is that they were all much further apart than I thought. So on the map, they look so close together, like, oh, you do your laps and then you do station 1 and then you do your laps, and station 2 is right next to station 1. It's like so quick. They were a good distance apart. So that was interesting. I sign in to get my ankle timer, and then at 30 minutes before your race time, they mark it on your arm. You are able to go down into the warm-up space. The warm-up space is before the tunnel to start, the starting line. So it's just for competitors. So I had to say goodbye to my husband and son and say, I'll see you on the other side. And they had little setups of each of the stations in the warm-up area, which I was very excited to get to try. In my training, I hadn't trained on all of the correct equipment, and I really wanted to try the wall ball target because I was throwing wall balls against an actual wall with a little marked spot of where the 9-foot meter was, but it's an actual target for the race. The first one that you could try were the sleds. This gave me a very quick, eye-opening moment where I started doing the sled push. Now, I'm used to pushing the sled in my gym. This sled was not going over the rug very easily, and I had seen this in a lot of people's videos and comments, so I kind of expected it, but I was like, the one at my gym doesn't go that easily over the floor or rug either. So I thought I was going to be prepared for that, but the rug was all bunched up, and then you kind of have to rock it over the rug, and it's over 200 pounds that you're pushing, so that's not an easy thing to do, and you have to stay in your lane. That was one station I was not worried about, but then at the practice area, I was like, oh, these are going to be a little tougher than I expected. Tried the sled, the ski and the row were good. Oh, I do have this little side tangent story that I'm really not sure what it means. I'll share because it was so bizarre. Okay, so right before the start tunnel, there was a water table, paper cups filled with water, and a person filling in there. I went over and I took a water. I also took a gel at this point because I realized my migraine and my lack of pancake. I did not eat enough pancakes, I think. So I took a gel to give myself some more energy. You need to drink water with the gel. I grabbed a cup and I'm drinking the water. A girl comes over to me. I also want to preface this with, I'd already met so many really nice people. I met a couple of people that were also from California while I was warming up. So I just want to say everyone that I had met so far was super nice. But this was the weird thing. So I'm drinking my water and a girl comes over to me and she's like, how's the water? And I'm like, fine, it's water. And then she was like, oh, no one's really drinking it. Does it smell weird? Now I'm like, what? I'm like, no, actually, it's fine. She said yesterday somebody was saying that the water was tainted. It was causing people to throw up. Like everyone was throwing up yesterday at the race. Then I'm like smelling my water, but I really need to drink this water because it's the only water available. And I just took a gel and I have a migraine. And so her telling me that I may have just had tainted water that could make me throw up when I was already nauseous was like the worst thing you could say. And then she just walked away. And I was like, that was a wild thing to leave me with, but okay. And then I'm looking around at, is anyone else drinking water? There were a few other people drinking water. And then I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh no, what if I just drank water that's going to make me throw up? And I was kind of getting in my head a little bit. Wait a second. Was she trying to get me in my head? Okay, I'm just going to pretend that the water was fine. I have a migraine, so I'm super sensitive to weird smells or anything being off, and I didn't smell anything or see anything. I'm just like, this water was fine. I'm not going to throw up. I'm fine. I'm fine. So that was my first mindset test that I did not expect. And then they made an announcement to call us all into the start tunnel. It's this dark tunnel where you run out to start your first lap. And they do this hype situation where they get everybody excited for the race. I tried to remember, don't overfire on that first lap. Run at my own pace. They counted down from 10. So I took some deep breaths. And I was like, migraine or not, here we go. We're going to do this. Here is the rundown of how the race went. I start running. It was lots of people cheering on their friends and families. Felt really good. I kept my pace. I do remember feeling really relieved when I finally got to the stations. After my first run, I got to the ski erg. I started going. All the people that were in the tunnel with me are next to me. And I was feeling like not going anywhere. So you have to go for 1,000 meters. And for some reason, I could not figure out why I could not get my meters to go up for the life of me. You are allowed to move the damper. I tried both. I went down, I went up, and it was just staying the same, which was also really weird. And I wasn't sure if it was the machine. I mean, this is my first station. I had tons of energy. I was trying to be steady, and it was just so frustrating. And then I slowly start seeing people leaving the station, like they're done. Finally, I just put the damper back where it started and just went until it was done. That station took me much longer than it should have. There wasn't really a judge nearby for me to ask. It was really difficult to figure out if it was me or if it was the machine. Either way, the first station did not go as fast as I wanted. So second run, I tried to make up a little bit of time. Then I went back to slow and steady because I knew I had the sled ahead of me, and the sleds in the warm-up had been harder than I expected. So, okay, hopefully the rugs will be okay for the sled. Lo and behold, the sled was not my best station, which was a little frustrating because I feel like I'm really strong in the sled. I did push it pretty fast. I tried to take a little break so I wouldn't seize up or anything. It was definitely, again, a little more challenging than I thought. Mindset-wise, at this point, I was feeling a little unsettled. I was really bummed about the ski and then the sled also being clinky. Go into my third run, I was feeling pretty good, pretty steady, and now I know I have the sled pull next. Even though it's still dealing with the rugs, at least the pull was a little different because you're pulling on the rope. I get into the sled pull. During the sled pull, you're not allowed to step out. You have this little box that your feet have to stay in that box while you're pulling the rope. Line the rope up behind you or to the side of you, and you're trying to be careful you stay in your lane and you're not tripping the person next to you. There's a lot going on besides just pulling the rope and trying to get the sled across the line. I was able to do that, but I did feel like I was being so careful about stepping out of the box. So now we're going into the fourth run. And on the fourth run, there is this board that I didn't really notice it until this point. It is basically everybody's names, and it flashes every 2 seconds with the person's name and what station they're on and what lap they're on. So if you are able to see your name when you run by that placard, you can kind of see what's up next. You have to consider everything yourself. You have to count how many laps, and you have to remember which station you're on and do everything in order, or you can get a penalty. So on my fourth run after the sled pull, my heart dropped because I saw my name flash with penalty. I was like so surprised, and I'm like, I must have stepped out of the box for the sled pull. Because it flashes so quickly, that's all I saw. So on the next lap, I was definitely looking to see if it said any more information. And when I saw my name on the screen, it said penalty 7 minutes. And I was like, what? A 7-minute penalty? I couldn't believe it. That totally tanked my confidence as I'm going into burpees, my most difficult station. I'm in it now. I've got a migraine. I've been running. I've been doing these strength stations. I'm gonna do these burpees. So I get into the burpee station, and I felt like I started strong. My first couple of jumps were pretty big jumps. I was trying to do as few burpees as possible by jumping as far as I could. All of a sudden, thwack, I was just hit with a wall. Mid first lap of burpees, I got super gassed. And I remember seeing in other people's tips from trainers for Hyrox to, if you're going to rest for burpees, to rest when you're down, like on the floor. Don't rest while you're standing up, because that's going to really slow you down. So I was in my head, just got super, super tired, and I was thinking, just one step in front of the other, just get through it, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I was just kind of counting it out in a slow manner. And then when I would get to the floor, I literally rested my cheek on, God knows what was on that floor, on the little rug, and took a breath. And then I got myself going again. But there was a part of me that was just thinking, oh, I could just take a nap here and be done. So I kind of dragged myself through those burpees. And when I got to the end of that first lap, it was like, oh no, you have another full lap of burpees to do. I kind of just got into a rhythm is how I did it. And I was only focused on myself. I couldn't even see anyone else around me. I was so gassed. So then on to the fifth run. So I grabbed the gel, got some water. There is like a little zone where you can grab water or Red Bull. The gel kicked in at some point in that first lap, and I got a little spike of energy from it. So then I knew I was heading into the row machine, which is kind of like your little break. It's like the one thing where you get to sit. I get to the rowing machine with a little more energy. My son was like right in front of my rowing machine, so that was nice. Even though it was so loud in there, I couldn't really talk to them. But I'm rowing, and I feel pretty strong on the row machine. And again, I was just focused on my form. But again, I felt like I couldn't get my meters to move. And I had people on either side of me, and I was looking at like, what's their damper set at? And I was feeling the same sort of feelings as the ski erg. It probably wasn't moving at in the same way. I think it was going a little bit faster than the ski. But yeah, I just felt like I was rowing forever. I just focused on form and had to get through it. And at least I had that gel of energy. And then it's time for my 6th run. Now I think the gel like fully kicked in. I ran hard for the first time in the whole race. Most of the time I was just slow and steady, but I had this moment, and also the crowd was bigger at this one point, and it just gave me so much energy. I was running hard during that point. That felt good. And then we're on to the farmer's carry. Now that's holding 35-pound kettlebells while you run the laps. I felt really strong in this station. However, the lights were really bright in this station for some reason. And at this moment, I noticed that, like migraine-wise, it just felt so bright. My goal was not to set them down. You are allowed to set them down if you get tired, and then you have to set them straight down and pick them straight up when you're ready to go again. So my goal was to do the whole thing, both laps, without setting them down. But I was really starting to feel my head with the bright lights. I got through that farmer's carry. I was able to do it without setting them down until the end. Then you set them down, and it's on to the 7th run. And by that point, I was spent. So the 7th run was more of a run walk. Everything was kind of catching up to me at that point. My body felt the endurance of the race. All of those good feelings of the gel had left me, but I was closer to the end of the race. So the next one was lunges. That's lunges with the sandbag on your shoulders. I looked down, and it was much like the burpees, and I could see the whole lap. I looked down the lap, and I just thought, okay, I've got this. And I crossed the line, hit my knee to the ground for that first lunge, and I was like, I can do this. My first lap, I killed it. I moved quickly. I felt good. So I turned to do the second lap. I'm just like, oh, then I start slowing down a little bit. I do 1 or 2, and then a judge comes over to me. And, there are judges the whole way kind of correcting people because there are these rules, and you can get penalties if you don't follow the rules, like touching your knee down and having hip flexion at the top. A judge comes over, and what I'd heard about the judging in my research was just do what they're asking because they could give you a penalty. So it's really just best work it out afterward. If there's any discrepancy, try to perform whatever they're asking. This judge comes, and he's like, all the way up, don't lean forward. He's shouting all these commands. And honestly, I don't remember the rules saying anything about leaning forward. However, I was going to perform perfect lunges because he's watching, and I already knew I had this one penalty, which I didn't know what it was for at that point. But I was like, I'm going to do perfect lunges because I do not want to get a penalty here. Literally that whole lap, I was like, just get to the end. You're almost done. All of this conversation was happening in my head. I'm like, perfect lunge, perfect lunge, perfect lunge. He literally walked me the entire way, instructing every single lunge. But I got to the end. He didn't say anything, so I was like, okay. I turned the corner thinking I can put my sandbag down and head off to my last run. And no, there are 2 more laps of lunges. At this point, it was my biggest mindset obstacle. I just wanted to quit. I was tired. I had a migraine. It wasn't going how I expected. And now I had 2 more laps of lunges. You know that feeling when something unexpected happens? It was that rug pulled out from under you feeling. I just hit a major mindset block. I just started pacing with the sandbag because you can't put the sandbag down. That's a penalty. And the second you cross the line, you have to start doing lunges. But I literally didn't think I had it in me to do one more lunge for the rest of my life. I was just pacing, and because it was kind of shaped like a snake, I couldn't get out. I was stuck in the middle of the lunges. So if I had wanted to just quit and leave and walk straight out of the stadium at that point, it wasn't going to happen because I was literally trapped in the middle of the lunge station, which is probably for the better because the only way was forward. I just had to tell myself, if you guys listen to my Mookie Betts story in episode 1, be nasty. I need to get through this. I took in a deep breath and I said, cross the line. That's what I told myself. The second I stepped past the line into a lunge, I'd have to finish. I literally don't remember getting through those lunges, but I did it. I did 2 more laps of lunges, and I was trying to have good form. I finished, put that sandbag down, and it was my 8th and final run. So I'm in the final bit. That final run was brutal. It was a blur. All I remember in the second lap, so I'm almost to the wall balls, I had these balls in my calves. It felt like 2 balls in each calf were just grinding together, that my muscles had turned into pool balls. And it was a very strange sensation that I'd never felt before. Even in any running I'd done, I'd never felt this before. But my calves were just like making really weird feelings. So then I get back to the stations. And it's really funny because there's actually photographic evidence of exactly how I felt as I entered the wall ball station, the final station of the race before the finish. I find the photos hilarious. They're posted on my Instagram at Jennifer Lee Lauer, Lauer, if you want to go see them. I made like a little funny video of it. But basically, my first thought, and I remember this viscerally, was, oh my gosh, I made it to the wall balls. That was like, I had a smile. I was so happy to finally be at the last station. And then immediately after that thought, I thought, oh no, I have to do 100 wall balls. My face fell. I was really nervous. My calves felt like baseballs were inside of them. I headed toward that station. 100 wall balls. I grab the wall ball. There's a judge right behind me, and I start my wall balls. And my goal was just do as many as you can without breaking. As many as I could, which was about 3 before my leg just totally cramped into a straight leg that I could not move. I didn't know what to do, and I told the judge, I'm cramping, and he told me to sit down. There was a box behind me to sit on. So I sat down, and I was punching my calf, like, come on, calf, come back to life. And I was just thinking, I made it this far. You have to get through this, even though your body is not happy. I got up as quick as I could from sitting, and then I went back into my wall balls. I think I got to 21 when I decided I can't look at that counter. 100 is too high for me to conceptualize right now. So when I saw 21, because there's a counter right above, I just started focusing on doing the wall balls, and I thought, I'm not going to look again until I've done a lot. I just kept doing chunks of 10. And then the next time I looked at the number, it was 86. I had 86. And I reasoned with myself at that point, if I do 10 more, I'll be at 96. And then I could just eke out and power through those last couple. And right when I was thinking that, one of my favorite songs, Kid Cudi's Pursuit of Happiness, the Steve Aoki remix, came on. And I felt like it was kind of a little friendly nudge from the universe. And I just powered through those last 14 wall balls. And then I threw myself toward the finish line. And I ran through the finish line, which felt like I was in slow-mo. And then I laid all the way down onto the ground. I peeled myself off the floor, went and found some canned water, my husband and my son. The trick final station of this race lie ahead. I didn't think of it at the time, but as I have my water and we're getting ready to go back to the car, back to the hotel, I look up and see the 15 flights of concrete stairs leading out of the stadium. I was like, oh shoot, now I have to climb all of these stairs. I took one step toward the stairs and my legs cramped. One step. I didn't even make it up the one step. My legs went straight. I collapsed onto my husband and son. It was like, oh my God, I can't feel my legs. My legs are just paralyzed. I don't know what to do. Oh my gosh, my legs. They helped me sit down on the steps. A Hyrox person came over, had seen me kind of stumble. I'm like, I can't move my legs. Like, I was freaking out a little bit. He was like, you need salt. And I couldn't hear him because it was so loud in there. He just kept saying, you need salt. I couldn't hear him, but I'm like, okay. And he's like, do you want me to get you salt? And I said, yes. And for some reason in my head, I'm thinking salt, like smelling salts. I don't know, like a Gatorade, some electrolytes. He comes back and hands me 5 packets of salt. And I'm like, what do I do with this? My husband ran and got a bottle of water. I have never done this before in my life, but I was in so much pain and so stricken with this cramp in both my legs where I literally couldn't move them that I ripped open that packet of salt and I took a shot of salt. And then I drank some water to wash it down. And the crazy thing, which, if this has ever happened to you before, you probably know, it worked. My legs came back to life. I was dehydrated. It immediately shocked something in my system to take that salt right away. I poured the rest of the salt into the water and I was just like kind of sipping on salt water. It was so disgusting. It was not good. However, it did work. I looked up at the stairs and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try with this salty water to climb. I just think it's so mean. All of these people just did this really hard race and then you have to climb all of these stairs. But I don't know how else they would get us out of there. So I decided I was going to go just like I did in the race, 1 foot after another. So that was my extra station. Okay, final thoughts. Would I do a Hyrox race again? The short answer is yes. Only if to see how I could perform better knowing the race that I'd gone through and also without a migraine. That was one of my biggest lessons is that, you can't control anything in life. I learned so much about the process and the outcome was not what I wanted. My final time was 2 hours and 4 minutes with the penalty. Without the penalty, I think I would have made sub 2 hours, not even close to my goal of an hour and a half. The funny thing, though, was knowing that I completed the race with a migraine actually made me feel more badass, like I could literally do anything. Oh, so about that 7-minute penalty. Apparently, I had missed a lap at some point in the beginning of the race, which I don't remember. I literally don't remember because I was trying to count everything really perfectly. You are so busy physically that the mental side of it is interesting. They add a 7-minute penalty, which is definitely longer than 1 lap would take me to run. So that was that. It was such an education in my mindset because I was tested so many times. I think there was definitely a time before I even started where I was like, should I even do this right now? Family had driven far. We were in a hotel. To bail before I even tried felt, even though I wasn't my best self, and the months of training didn't feel right to not try. And actually, looking at it now, I probably learned more from all the things that went wrong than if I'd had that hour 30 race where I felt great and performed at my best level. It was a really good life lesson. If you have a hard goal, it doesn't really matter what the outcome is because you learn the most when things don't go how you expect. It's more of how you respond to it. I will take that into my life in the future. I offer to you, try hard things. I know if I can do hard things, you can too. Okay, so we end every episode with the question, how do you take your coffee? And since I answered my morning coffee in the last episode, I'll share my afternoon coffee in this one. This isn't daily, maybe every other day I have an afternoon coffee. I like a cold brew or an iced coffee, no sweetener. I would do a cold foam. So if it's not too sweet, I like it strong. Finally, here is a moment to focus inward with a couple deep breaths taken together. Let's take a breath in. Imagine your whole body filling with light and hold it at the top. And exhale. And then we'll inhale a fill of the light, hold it, and exhale any clouds. One more deep breath of light, and exhale. May your day be filled with light.